So I suppose first and foremost, today is your second anniversary.
It is. Yeah.
So talk to me about those first 2 years.
Yeah, so it's been, as anyone else would say, it's been a hectic, intense 2 years. You can say I started at a time where the company was doing well operationally, so there was no burning platform from that perspective, but that actually was the burning platform because I came on board with a board of directors that gave me a mandate to have a very firm look at where we wanted to take the company on a 1 to 2 decade horizon. So you can say the fact that the foundation was good from a financial performance perspective gave us a platform to think about how we wanted to pivot the company to make sure that we were also relevant in 10 years and 20 years. That's a luxury, and it also meant that despite, you can say, we could lean back and continue to focus on daily operational performance, it also gave us an impetus to rethink what the company was and make sure that we were staying current. So it's been an amazing 2 years. We can talk through lots of it, but the journey we've been on has been a journey of moving the company gradually. I wouldn't say pivot, that can be too aggressive, but gradually moving the company towards a direction we feel is more future-proof, and at the same time also looking at the capabilities of our core teams. How do we make sure we enhance capabilities that will drive that direction? So we've also changed a number of key people, and we've done a number of organizational changes. And on top of that, the overarching thing we've done is we've been working a lot on our culture to make sure that our culture is fit to deliver on the strategy and the purpose of the company. So it's been a hectic 2 years. We are beyond all the mundane details of all the travel around the world. We sell our products in 150 countries. We've had to deal with some big external situations as well, such as our suddenly nationalized Russian business, etc. But all of that, I sit here after 2 years, and I'm very pleased with where we are.
So I'm just interested because I know you from your ISS days and
Yes.
the like. And this must have been a dream job for you. I mean, as a Dane to actually, was there ever a time that you were scared?
Scared is a big word. No, I've never been scared. Okay. You can say, you're right. We've known each other from the ISS period, and I loved working with ISS. I was there for 3 years as CEO, and listen, it's a dream to lead close to 500,000 people around the world, and on a daily basis, we were turning around a company that was in deep red when I took it over, and we turned it around. And so we did a financial turnaround, but at the same time, we also created amazing opportunities for people most of them were in their first jobs, and we were creating a career ladder for them, and giving them a meaningful way of actually supporting and supporting their families and creating a life for themselves. So it's an amazing dual purpose of turning around financially a company, operationally, but also creating real purpose for people. So I loved it, and that's also why, of course, it was hard when Carlsberg called. Yeah. I had intended to stay for longer, but it was a dream job. I've always said, ever since I was a teenager, that there was very few companies in the world that I would throw everything I had to immediately go to, and Carlsberg was one of those, less than a handful. So an amazing job, and plenty of things to deal with. But I think if you're in these types of positions, and I've had the pleasure of this not being my first C-suite job, I think you develop some thick skin. And if you're scared, you shouldn't be doing this. And it's not to sound in any way arrogant, but I just think you need to be in a place where you feel comfortable with what you're doing. Yeah. This is a job like any other job, and if you don't enjoy what you're doing on a daily basis, you should do something else.
Okay, so you come into this organization, and I'm just interested to know, obviously you're a high performer, and you want to inculcate that culture of high performance into this organization. What do you do? What's that first step to assess whether or not it's where it should be? Yep. And where you want it to be?
Yeah, so first of all, high performer is many things to many people. So let's just be clear on that, because I didn't come into a Carlsberg that wasn't performing financially. I came into a Carlsberg where my predecessor had done a great job in terms of creating a financial performance culture. So I'm very clear around that. So you're not going to find me as one of those CEOs that kicked my predecessor. I think there was a good foundation there, and we all acknowledge that. So for me, it was I needed to make sure that we were not just creating a high performance organization on a financial, from a financial perspective, but also in a broader sense, because it was around how do we create a lasting structural high performance culture that will deliver no matter what hits it, and will constantly evolve, innovate, etc., and stay ahead of the curve. And how do you assess that? For me, you can say, of course, I think we all get in these jobs get pretty good at reading organizations and people. In the process up to my start on 1st of September 2 years ago, I had a lot of conversations with key people. I think I had one-on-ones with close to 100 people at Carlsberg. So you very, very quickly get a sense for the culture, where are the strengths, where are the weaknesses. But I didn't have the arrogance to say, okay, now I know it all. I never have. So we actually did a significant piece of work where we did a organizational health study. We interviewed more than 2,000 colleagues across the world to get real clear metrics, cultural metrics on where our strengths and weaknesses were. And it was not here's a burning platform, but it was how do we take all the great elements of the culture and continue to build those, and how do we take the weaknesses, the soft spots, and then truly develop around those.
And what kind of things came out of that?
Yeah, so the interesting thing was, as expected, there was a very strong financial and operational performance culture. Where we had room for improvement was around, you can say, the more human dimension around leadership. So if you focus an organization too much one-dimensionally around one aspect, in this instance around financial and operational performance, you do risk, not with intent, but you do risk that the organization then becomes more short-term. And there's less focus on building the longer-term capabilities and the longer-term, you can say, broader, deeper leadership capabilities in an organization. So we could see we had something around leadership. We had something around the way we created inclusive environments. We had something around how we really truly developed our talents, how we created innovation, the power in the organization. And also we had something around how did we release, you can say, the amazing capabilities of our colleagues in an environment that was also more consumer focused than it was historically. Organizations like ours very often ends up, if you're driving financial and operational performance management, you end up often becoming customer focused, and that's not the consumer. Customer would be your retailer, etc. Because those are the people you engage with on a daily basis. They are the ones that purchase your product and then onsell them to a consumer. But in the end, sometimes you end up forgetting the consumer in that. And we wanted to get back to the consumer, because if the pull is there from the consumer, I guarantee that the customer will buy your products, because then there's a market for it. So we wanted to recalibrate with a bigger consumer focus. And that actually didn't just lead to how do we talk about consumer, how do we train our leaders, what career paths do we create. It also led to a strategic decision to literally organizationally also, how did we organize? So as an example, we pulled commercial and marketing apart and elevated marketing into the executive committee to make sure that there was a very strong consumer focus by having marketing there, because marketing, it's all about consumer. So we also did organizational changes. I do believe that if you want to drive cultural change, you need to make sure that the organization you set up is set up in a way that creates the easiest path for that cultural change. If you have organizational inhibitors, then you can, in the end, when you turn your back to the organization will sort of lead, the water will flow the way the organization is built. So you need to make sure organizational structure is built in a way that facilitates the strategic aims and facilitates the culture you want to create.
In terms of that culture, arriving here this morning, beautiful by the way, where we are.
The weather is not always like this.
No, that's true. Yeah, it's true. But when we walked into reception, and I didn't realize, but the graduate intake is kind of happening today.
It's today, yeah.
So it's really important. What is the message that you send to those graduates that you just want to inculcate so that they know that, as you say, that they start to have green blood flowing through their veins?
Yeah, exactly. Listen, I will meet all of the new graduate intake. I'll meet them tomorrow. They get 1 day before they meet the CEO. And I meet all new employees in general. I meet them on a quarterly basis. Because it's very important for us that we ensure that people very, very quickly understand, one, And this, you can say, what's the priority when I meet them, beyond getting to know them as much as I can. One, purpose. They need to understand what is it we're solving for. Why are we here as an organization? Two, they need to understand our history, our legacy, our heritage. We're sitting here in Carl's villa right now, which is Carl Jacobsen's home. This is where he lived with his family, and I have many meetings here to constantly, on a daily basis, remind me of the heritage that I'm right now the custodian of and building on top of. And so I want them to understand that they're part of a 178-year legacy. They will now stand on the shoulders of giants, and it's their job also to take that heritage and in a responsible way keep on building on that heritage. So it's purpose, it's heritage, and then it's of course strategy. They need to understand what is the strategy that we have devised to fulfill that purpose and to deliver on that long-term goal. And then I talk culture. Because in the end, I think if there's one thing that we cannot go wrong on, we have to win. It's the battle around culture. We are very, very focused on hiring people that fits within the culture we want to achieve. We're also focused on the fact that in the end, if we have two candidates that in the end score equally well, it's the cultural element that will win. I would rather have someone who is 90 on an index 0 to 100, 90 on experience and specific skills in a certain job, but 100 on culture, than the other way around. Because long-term, great people with great culture, behaviors, the right values, etc., they will go much further for us as a company. They will learn whatever they need to learn on the job. But it's so important for us. And I can talk for hours around this, and I'm sure
But I'm just interested that, you came from Danske Bank, CFO. It's normally somebody who goes into the CEO role then is obsessed about the numbers. But every time I've met you, you've talked culture and people. Where does that come from?
Well, first of all, the team will tell you I am obsessed by numbers, and because in the end we need to deliver.
Yeah.
Don't you worry about that. But and that's also why I said in the beginning, the performance management part, trust me, all the great things around what we've been doing here historically, we will keep on nurturing those. But I think if we want to do it in a sustainable long-term way, where we're constantly building for the future as we deliver in the short term, we need culture as part of that. People need to feel that this is a family business. And listen, if you inherit the family business, you will take care of it. You will not just be short-term in your decision-making. You will make sure that you're delivering on the go, but you're also at the same time building for the next generation. And that has to be the mindset. That's how sustainably winning business financially are built as well. Where does this come from? Now listen, I sincerely believe, and you can say even being a banker, I can hear that you're very surprised around coming from banking as such. Banking is a people business as well. And in the end, I learned that where we truly excelled as bankers, when we created strong personal relations with amazing colleagues that went beyond and created that personal connection to the customer. And they could only do that because they were part of winning teams where people cared for each other. So I've always been very focused on that element. I've also, you know my history, I've also personally been through some things in my life which has sharpened my perspective on the fact that I literally don't want to work in organizations that do not take care of their people. I think life is too short for work not to be a place that constantly develops you and creates value, not just in the short term financially, but also creates value for greater society, for you as an individual, and that longer term perspective also brings better financial results over time. It just does.
Because most organizations are going quarter to quarter,
yes.
And that brings a lot of pressure. Whereas you guys seem to talk about 10 years, much more than I've ever heard any other organization talk about it. So that long-term view is different.
It's important. Listen, if we don't do it, who should be doing it? Listen, we have the benefit, we have the luxury of being on the stock exchange and having investors that are pushing us for short-term results. That makes us sharp. That makes us, I can tell you there's no waste in this organization. People are incredibly focused on delivering their financial results. So it's a very driven organization. But at the same time, we have a foundation, the Carlsberg Foundation, set up by Carl and his father, JC. They had both their foundations and they merged. And the Carlsberg Foundation controls the company. So they have the majority of the votes of the company. So, and their perspective is really a 100-year perspective in how they approach it, which gives us the luxury of having the pressure of performing short term, but a constant reminder that we need to build for the next generation as well. And I think that's great, because I do think that if you are only the latter, I think you also, over time, you create less value. We need to have that performance pressure all the time to make sure that we're not inefficient versus our competitors, that we are in an incredibly competitive marketplace. Don't get us wrong. I can guarantee you that Heineken and Anheuser-Busch, InBev, and those guys, they're not just going to give us an easy ride because we have a foundation controlling us. So we need to perform every single day. But I think what will make the difference over time is the fact that we are also constantly setting up options, seeding new businesses for the next generation. So when they come in, when I hand this over at some point, they're taking over a new portfolio of amazing opportunities and growth opportunities. And that's why we are 178 years old by now and still thriving. I think that's what great businesses are made of. They are led by people who are constantly thinking about, how do I not just deliver today, but how do I make sure that the person who comes after me can also deliver?
You talked about performance pressure. And I'm interested, because oftentimes when we're assessing organizations, some of the cultural words that come back from people are like fear. And that many CEOs might lead their senior team with a sense of keeping people on the performance edge by keeping the pressure on. And that's a tough environment. You talk to some of those people around the senior table and they kind of say, well, you know, I nearly have to sacrifice my own health because I'm paid the big bucks. So how do you get that balance between kind of sharpening everybody around the senior table, but yet also making sure that you're getting that balance right?
Yeah, so there's never a one solution here, but you can say the way I approach it is, one, I start by building a team around me that has the same set of values. So from my perspective, now we come into the concept that I call organizational heartbeat. So what is the heartbeat that you create in the organization? Every organization has a heartbeat. I'm very focused on the fact that it's a high-paced heartbeat. We need to make decisions fast, we need to move fast, we need to innovate, we need to constantly push the boundaries. You can create a positive or negative organizational heartbeat. And you are right that many organizations end up having a negative organizational heartbeat because leadership basically pushes you to deliver with the fear of sanction. It can either be a verbal humiliation in meetings, sitting there in a tough crowd where leaders are calling you out for not performing, etc. It can also be financial sanctions, you're not getting your bonuses, etc., etc. I do believe that, of course, incentives matter a ton. I'm very incentive-based. We create financial incentives for people, so that's for sure. So you will always have that financial element to it. But I do believe in if you want to create true, lasting, structural impact, you need to drive positive leadership around this. So for me, it's much more around we constantly celebrate success, we constantly drive positive ambassadors. And when you do that in a structural way, you motivate people just as much because they want to be that positive ambassador. They want to be the people who get called out all the time. If you create a environment of fear, you do achieve a couple of things. One, you may deliver your short-term numbers, but people are constantly scrambling to get there. They will deliver what you tell them to do. There will be once you create a fear culture, it becomes a less inclusive culture where no one dares raising their hand when things aren't going the way that they expect to. That means problems are escalated at a later stage where they are much harder to manage. I do also believe that there is a lot of pent-up capabilities and performance in people that is not released because you create an organization where basically your incentive is to keep your head down and try to deliver your numbers. We're trying to create an environment that is a reverse of that. We want to create an environment where people are motivated to raise their hand, to bring new things on the table, to publicly disagree with a direction. If they really disagree, I want to know. We want to have the conversations on the table. It also means that we create incredibly lively executive teams because there's real tension in the room when we don't agree. We'll have the right conversations with a focus on the ball and not the man, if I may use that. I know you're an Arsenal fan. So. And by bringing that into the room, you eradicate politics outside. Because very often, if you have that negative organizational heartbeat, senior meetings have very little disagreement. There's a direction set by some senior leaders. Everyone tries to follow them and deliver on them. No one disagrees. You don't have the big discussions around the big topics. They happen in the corridors. There's a lot of politics in the corridors. And I have a couple of principles in terms of my leadership, and that is no politics. I made it very, very clear I want no politics. And if you drive politics outside of the room, like longer term, you're just not part of the team anymore. We have a team manifesto in the executive committee of Carlsberg with 10 rules, and one of the first ones is no politics. And we call it out. If we hear politics, see politics, we call it out in the room, and we bring it to the table and we discuss why did we let that happen and how do we kill it again. Because politics is basically the cancer that kills organizational momentum.
I agree. So
I want decisions in the room. I want us to disagree, vehemently disagree if we have to, but when we leave the room, we agree. So you can say the rule we now use internally is 80% agreement, 100% alignment. So we may not always end up agreeing, but we will be aligned once we made the call, and then we go. So I could talk for ages around this, but it is just, I think you get 120%, index 120 versus a negative organization over time out of your people, because when you encourage people to actually use their own intellect, think for themselves, you release so much energy, so much capability.
So one of the things I'm hearing all of the time is that this is a growth culture. I read your latest LinkedIn post, and I'm seeing in the first half of 2025, we launched 202 new products. Like, I'm
not
nearly
all in
exhausted. I'm nearly exhausted listening to that. I mean,
you don't have to drink all of them. It's okay.
Yeah. But that's amazing.
Yeah, but in the end, it's a metric. But it's not you can say, for us, it's not an aim in itself that we have to launch 200 products. But I think what's happening with the organization is that we are willing to take more risk. We're willing, but the innovation funnel is growing bigger. The organization is incredibly focused on how do we innovate around quite an evolving consumer at the moment. So the consumer tastes and the behaviors around our type of products are evolving massively at the moment. And instead of being reactive, we're trying to now move ahead of the curve. So we are, and it's a key element of growth culture. So you can say, okay, that they launched some products, but it's a key hallmark of many of the things that's happening to the company is we raise the dial around creating a culture of innovation. The 2,000 people that we were interviewing, all the work we did back then, all of that led to the definition of 5 growth culture principles that we announced in early 24 to the whole organization. We have then worked in every single team, every single employee has then worked on what growth culture means to them and their team. How the 5 principles will translate into what they do. And it's something that we talk about all the time.
And what are those 5 principles?
Well, one of them is, the first one is Semper Ardens. This is Carl's motto, which is always burning. Yeah. It's something, it's basically, it's a principle around organization momentum, heartbeat, making decisions, wanting to lead instead of follow. So it's really around having that burning ambition to always lead the industry, which also means willingness to take risk and sometimes make mistakes. That's very important for us. There's passion for consumers. There's a principle around creating a safe and caring environment, an inclusive environment for our employees, and develop and nurture them. There's a positive energy principle as well, which is one of the most important ones for me. So as you can see, they're all positive. They're all around how do we release the full potential of our colleagues? How do we create a culture where we bring issues to the table? How do we create, the 5th one is around agility, which it's basically we make decisions fast and we act upon them. So it's also around creating, so you can hear the statements are around organizational heartbeat, around positive energy, and they bring back they all go back to, you can say, a core philosophy you would also have heard me talk about at ISS, which is I have 4 principles that matters more than anything else for me from a work perspective, and that is it's values, it's compassion, it's positive energy, and it's high ambition. Those 4 elements, they have to be in everything we do. We need to be value driven. I need to be able to turn my back to anyone in the organization that they will be acting with respect, with integrity, with care for their colleagues. Compassion is, you can say, a bit unusual. You don't see many companies have compassion as one of the key elements around their culture, but compassion is so much in the spirit of Carlsberg. It's so much around caring for your colleagues, for your employees. Organizations that care over time, they outperform, also on financial metrics, because employees, colleagues that work in organizations that care for them, they will also give more back to that organization. The third element is positive energy, and positive energy is such a core element of everything I do, and every single organization that I have observed that has performed over time are driven by a positive energy instead of a negative energy. So we want to win. We are hell-bent on delivering on those high ambitions, which is the fourth element. But we want to do it with positive energy. So it's team-based. No one wins alone. It's how do I and the team, how do we win? How do we push each other forward? So when we push each other for better performance, it's not meant in a negative way, but it's because we want to win together. And I think that element is incredibly important for me. So you will hear that we are very intent on, as the top leaders in the organization, around when issues are brought to the table. The first question is not who did this or why didn't you see this coming or whatever. It's okay, how do we solve it? Long story short, or maybe long story long, growth culture for us is something we developed back in 24. It's really been rolled out in the organization. We work very hard on embedding it. And why is it embedding so well? It's embedding so well because it's so much in line with the heritage that we're sitting on. So
you say it's just fantastic to hear you say that you spot the link between a culture of care and a culture of performance, because that's what obviously I'm trying to talk to people all over the world about and see that link. Can you give me a specific as to if I joined Carlsberg, how would I feel that culture of care?
I think first of all, we spend a lot of time integrating you. Our leaders, when our leaders live up to the growth culture principles, and of course over time they have to, but I could not guarantee that you'll meet every leader at Carlsberg that fully lives up to it. But it's now also part of their behavioral scores. It's how you get. It's part of your incentives, your financial incentives. We now measure you much harder on your how, and the how is fully measured up against the growth culture principles. So it's also part of how you get remunerated. I say that because the leader that you will start working for will have as one of their key objectives to integrate you, to make sure that you immediately become part of the overall DNA and fabric of Carlsberg. But you see the care in the way that I think this organization, more than any I've been in before, truly cares for the individual. It cares for the individual within the team as well. We are incredibly teams-based, but with a constant articulation that the team is basically a collection of amazing individuals, and we celebrate the uniqueness. That's also why we have such a big diversity focus on and how high-performing organizations over time have the same straight hallmark, which is diverse teams, high-performing diverse teams. So you see, concretely, I don't know if our goodie bags are better than the others, etc., but I think it's much more in the leadership. It's in the constant articulation of your role in the team. It's in the constant feedback culture. It's in the constant focus on your development as an individual. And it's also in the way that we urge you to constantly speak up and bring your own perspectives to the room. I think that's where people really feel compassion, because if I care for you, I want to develop you. And you do have I think you can demand from us that we have a plan for your career and how we want to develop you. Of course, together with you, but you need to be able to demand that.
So everything.
And I'm sure you can find employees that don't feel they have that. So we always, of course, have to work on it. But that's one of the key aspects, I think.
just the world we're living in today seems to have just picked up pace, and it's just what's been demanded of people. It's just kind of gone to 10x. Interested in that post on LinkedIn where you were talking about the big bets, because what I'm getting from what I'm hearing from you is a culture of psychological safety here.
Yes.
Right? And that's the importance of managing risk and making those big bets and feeling comfortable that maybe some of those aren't going to come off.
Yep.
How do you manage risk?
Yeah, so I think the starting point is, and I think you're right, it's incredibly fast-paced out there, both in terms of what we do, but also every single colleague in this company will wake up in the morning, pick up their phone, and will be inundated with new external factors. Whether that is new things coming out of there's a very active US president. There's a lot of conflict around the world at the moment. There's a lot of innovation around AI. Most people will feel that they're behind the curve because everyone else seems to be getting it. There's a massive sustainability debate, etc. You can pick the first 10 themes at the moment. That's what our employees, before they even get to breakfast, are hit by every single day. It's our job to create order in that chaos. So if, as a leader, whether you're the CEO or whether you're middle management somewhere, etc., it's your job to create a safe, inclusive environment where people can enter, feel they're in a safe space, feel that there is a direction. So the first thing I have to do is create, with authentic, true leadership, create a direction where everyone can see where the company is heading. It's my job and the rest of the leadership team to very clearly articulate to all of our colleagues, yeah, we know it's relatively chaotic out there at the moment, but this is the direction for the following reasons. We stay the course. We have a very clearly defined set of values and beliefs in this company. They do not change on a daily basis. So this is the core that you drive forward with. And then within that, we need to stick 100% true and authentically to what we preach. So when I talk about growth culture, we then need to create those environments where you can bring risk-taking innovation onto the table without feeling in any way that someone will go and suddenly hit you on the head if you get something wrong. And that is a leadership skill. You can say, how do you do it? You do it by making sure that every single leader understands their responsibility, their behavior around risk-taking, both urging, creating environments where we can take risk, appropriate risk, of course. We're not suddenly talking about, so the guys at the brew house can suddenly take health and safety risks. That's not, of course, not where we are. But it is a question of creating an environment where we're willing to take calculated bets to a larger extent than we've done before. And I think it really comes down to one element, and that's psychological safety. Feeling safe that if it goes wrong, you're not going to get killed. I can guarantee you we have a very, very high, as you know, a very high performance culture. We want to win. This is not, let's go and do fun stuff. There's a lot of work, a lot of data analysis, insight that goes into an innovation or a risk take. And that is also when something then goes wrong, because not every innovation goes right, not every decision is right. We of course analyze, so on the back of the data we took that call, what can we learn from that? Where did we miss something, or did we actually not miss something? It was just bad luck, pure bad luck, etc. So I think creating those also feedback loops all the time. You can. It's funny, you sit in organizations like this, and this is a big thing. Then you look at tech startups. You look at a lot of actually the established tech companies that constantly roll out products that they are constantly updating. We're all very happy having an iPhone that constantly has a new update to the operating system, and it's completely natural. But we do expect in companies like this that when you roll something out, it's 100% pre-cooked and well done, and everyone would love it, and there's a market for it. I think we're moving into a place where consumers are much more promiscuous in terms of their usage of our products. They are straddling all types of products all the time. They don't stick to a favorite brand in the way they did in the past, etc. It's much harder work for us, but it also gives us amazing opportunities if we create a culture that is much more innovative than the people next to us.
And talking about those changing consumer behaviors and trends,
yep.
In that post, you also talk about health and
well-being.
Oh, absolutely. Health and well-being moving from niche to norm. So how has that changed your business?
Yeah, so if you look at it, Actually, our industry has been relatively, I wouldn't say static, but it's been developing in a relatively linear way for many years. And then if you look at the last 5-6 years, 5 years basically since COVID, living well has become the dominant theme within food and beverages. So consumers there's been a significant shift towards health and well-being. There was always a trend towards more and more health and well-being, but it's really accelerated due to COVID. And living well, of course, plays into both in terms of your mental well-being, your physical well-being, what you eat, what you drink, all of that. And that's also why we're having this conversation, because it's a bigger theme today. It also impacts our industry. And what we see is that there is an ongoing structural trend towards moderation. So low and no alcohol within our products, low and no sugar within our products. And if you look at cross food and beverages over the last 5 years, 50% of all new products that have been launched globally are within the living well, health and well-being category. So it's a massive trend for us, and it's a massive opportunity. Some people talk about it as a threat. For us, I think it's an amazing opportunity. It's just a question of how you respond as a company. I'll repeat, we have been here for 178 years. I can guarantee you the consumer has not been unchanged for 178 years, and we've only grown stronger throughout that. So we see it as an amazing opportunity. And we see it as an amazing opportunity in the context of also what we're doing with the company at the moment, which is we are gradually releasing a lot of energy and innovation power in this company at a time where it's more needed than ever. So I see it as a fantastic opportunity for us as a company. We have over the last couple of years launched more than 60 new alcohol-free brewed products. We have done an amazing acquisition in the UK last year, which broadens out our portfolio to a broader multi-beverage portfolio. Of course, brewing is at our core, but we can now cater to more consumer preferences and more occasions. So a third of our business is soft drinks today, and for the first time in our history, slightly less than half of our business is, you can say, core mainstream beer. And we think there is an amazing place for beer going forward. But we also think that we as an industry, we need to continue to rejuvenate the beer category and reinvent it. Beer will continue to be a mainstay and a core part of our business, but beer will evolve like anything else. And I think that's just an absolutely amazing opportunity for us.
So it's interesting because I'm looking at, as I say, you're LinkedIn quite a lot, right?
Yeah, I can hear that.
Because your social media is amazing. And what I'm seeing is you all over the world, driving huge innovation and performance culture and the like. And then I think about you as an individual. And, I talk to people and they sort of said, Jakob, he's just so high energy. He absorbs a lot of stress, but he always manages to turn it into a positive. And I'm kind of, when I read that Semper Ardens,
yes.
I was going, always burning. I was going, how do you get the line between, that burning being a positive sort of energy force
not burning
and just
out.
Exactly.
Yeah. No, listen, I think first of all, I'm no god or anything like that. Of course, for me, it's also a constant balance you need to work on. I don't believe, and you sometimes you see interviews with CEOs and they talk about how they work 80 hours a week, but they also run ultra marathons and they do French cooking for 4 nights a week, etc. And are amazing dads and pick up their kids every day. Of course, there's sacrifices in all of this, and you need to find balances. You need to find a constant balance. First of all, your mindset is a choice you make on a daily basis. And I literally choose to be positive. And my history. At the age of 29, I was close to leaving this beautiful earth. Woke up on my 30th birthday from heart surgery. And that also gave me a perspective around life being too short to needlessly worry about things. And this is not that I don't worry. I can guarantee you life as a CEO is full of issues. Most things that end up at your table are things that no one else could solve, or they don't have a solution and you need to find a path forward on them. I usually say that all the easy, fun choices, they're made by other people in the organization. And when it gets to me, it's because it's hard. So of course, there's a lot to worry about. But I have actually found that having having that positive attitude, having an approach where you're constantly constructively seeking solutions, instead of spending negative energy on why did this happen, etc., you end up with much better solutions. I think you become a much better CEO because you don't have negative energy. You're not afraid of making mistakes. And that means you make better decisions over time. In the end, it's better results, it's better performance. Because it also releases your organization in a way where they are actually fully willing to bring issues to your table because they know you will handle it in the right way. So it's a choice I make, and then I'm very focused on 3 letters called FSN, and that's fitness, sleep, nutrition. I think you need to take care of yourself because you're right. There's a ton of stress in these types of jobs, and many people out there will have a lot of stress in their jobs. And the first way of not being able to handle that stress if you're not in balance. So I need to make sure that I get my workouts in. I need to make sure. So that's the fitness
every day?
part. Yeah, almost every day.
Yeah.
Sometimes you are on a travel schedule where it's just impossible. When you're in a country doing a country visit. The lovely teams locally will have your calendar booked with a 7 a.m. breakfast with some dignitary until a late dinner with customers, etc. But usually I get it in almost every day. So fitness is important, sleep is important. I think the older I've gotten, the more I've realized the power of sleep, how important it is.
How many hours for you?
It has to be between 7 and 8. It's unfortunately closer to 7 than 8. But I think what is actually most important for me, and I can see now that that's also backed by science, is that I have the same sleep pattern all the time. So,
how do you measure the quality?
I'm not one of those that run around with a ring. I did that, and I think bless. I think that can be very helpful for some people. For me, it's literally what my energy level is in the morning. Okay. So I'm very focused on having the same sleep patterns 7 days a week. I don't suddenly sleep 11 hours on a Sunday, etc. I sleep the same during the entire week. And then the other element is if I wake up before time and it's close enough, I will get up. So it's important to follow your own cycle. Yeah. And then nutrition part, I think that's a given as well. You need to think about what you put in your mouth. You need to make sure that the energy levels are there, that you create long energy and for those long days and long nights. So listen, there's no rocket science around it. It's around having a balance and taking care of yourself. And we all know how it is. If you don't have the energy level in the morning, you become a bad version of yourself. And if you have the responsibility of a big business, you need to make a lot of decisions during the day. I think that's borderline irresponsible.
So do you feel comfortable being a role model for everybody in this organization?
Well, I'm comfortable, yes, but I'm not sure I'm a role model as such. I'm just a humble guy from the countryside in Denmark. So, I try
people do look up.
I try to be a positive ambassador for our people. They're all highly skilled individuals that can also think for themselves. But I think it is important to show a good example. It's important I think it's also important for people to work for someone that they can somewhat identify with and they can feel that there's an authentic human being behind. So I can also, once in a while, I can also talk about issues. You don't want to create some sort of a version of yourself where people think that they're not feeling the true self. Historically, take any business school study, they will show that when people connect with a leader, they're also more motivated and more engaged in the workplace.
So 2 years celebrating today. Congratulations.
Hopefully again. 2 more years, who knows? Let's see.
I'm just interested.
Call me in 2 years.
Growth strategy and growth is part and parcel. How have you grown? What's changed in those 2 years between the Jakob who came in and one who's sitting in front of me now?
I think you're constantly growing. Whatever you do, for me, it is interesting to see. So I'm closing in on now 10 years in C-suite, and if I look back at when I started in 2016 as CFO of Danske Bank compared to today, there are elements where I think that was a completely naive young man who was the CFO at that point compared to today, and I think everyone will feel like that, whatever profession they're in. I've learned on a daily basis, you learn a ton around constantly a ton around when you communicate, what reaction do you get, the decisions you make, the wrong calls you made, the right calls you make. I think you're constantly searching for that balance. So did I learn anything specific I can call out? I think I'm becoming every single day a little bit more rounded, a little bit more thoughtful, a little bit better at reading people, but I still make mistakes. What is important for me is I think we built a phenomenal team, executive team here. I don't lead this company alone. I don't win alone. We win as a team. And there's a lot of work we still need to do in the coming years to make that a truly high-performing team. But I've learned a ton about those people, and I learned a ton from those people. For me, it's around maintaining a culture where they will also constantly give me feedback and help me learn. Because the moment I stop learning, then someone should fire me. Well, this is not, if anyone is watching from the board of directors, no good, don't get any ideas, but it is incredibly important that you're humble around what you know and what you don't know. Sure. Because I think that's the only recipe for long-term success as a company, that is a company with leaders that have an open mind around where the world is heading.
I can't believe the time is nearly up.
Okay.
I'd love
hopefully
to...
not on my career.
No.
Thank you.
Two quickies. AI, are you positive or... Well, you'd probably be positive, but the effect it's having, you said at the start, everybody feels they're slightly behind the black ball in terms of trying to figure it out.
Yep.
Have you figured it out?
Of course I have. No. Listen, first of all, I think this world is built around FOMO, fear of missing out. So I think that's what social media and constant communication have given us. We do believe that everyone else is ahead of us in everything. The amount of CEOs I see talking confidently around AI, et cetera, and then when you meet them for a cup of coffee, et cetera, they will admit that they have no clue. I think, let's just be honest, we are literally at the beginning of the AI journey. I think some of the hype will turn into every day at some point. I'm old enough to know when the internet really became a thing. And now it's just an incorporated part of course, our daily lives and how we work, etc. And it has revolutionized many things. But we're still working, we're still developing products, we're still sharing and caring for each other, and we're still, the world hasn't fallen apart, and it will not with AI either. I think AI is a really positive thing. It's going to help us remove tasks that we don't need to do. As human beings, it's going to free up a ton of time and energy and resources and capabilities to spend time on making this the world we live in a much better place. I think as a CEO, I think it can release a lot of resources that we can then deploy to other things. It can accelerate our innovation massively. It can accelerate our speed to market. We can become much more creative, much faster, create amazing products for our consumers. So I think it's an amazing thing. Like any other leap in history, there will be some disruption, of course. But as we've always done, I think as Schumpeter called it, creative destruction. It happens all the time. We find a new equilibrium and then we go again. I think overall this is a very positive thing.
Okay. Final question is about this legacy.
Yes.
We are here in this beautiful surroundings, but you also have partnerships that are kind of your Liverpool Football Club. I have to let you speak about that connection, even though it hurts particularly today. Yeah. But I'm sure we'll live to fight again.
We're sitting here the day after Liverpool beat Arsenal.
That's correct. Thank you for making that clear. But talk to me about the importance of that sort of relationship and those partnering with two organizations of immense legacy. Yeah,
happy to. So listen, we have a lot of great partnerships across the world. Liverpool is definitely one of the iconic ones. We're the longest standing partnership in the Premier League between a sponsor and a club. And it is unique for us, and it's not a random selection. You say the ethos, the values, the DNA of Liverpool is in many ways resembles what Carlsberg also stands for. It's respect, integrity, it's caring for society. Liverpool does not only work with one bottom line; they work with many bottom lines around wanting to impact the society that they're based in. When you go to Liverpool and you see all the work that the Liverpool Foundation is doing and all the work they're doing for less fortunate parts of society in Liverpool and the greater area around. It is amazing to see. So it's a company that in many ways feels like it's a family-driven business where it's not just around results this year, but it's also around building for the next generation. And that really appeals to us as a company. The other thing is, it's iconic. You sit here, you know immediately that there's a big iconic relationship here. We cannot have iconic partnerships where I will lose sleep at night thinking about what they are up to tomorrow. I need to know that they have exactly the same values as we have. I have no doubt ever. We've never ever had to consider whether Liverpool will do the right thing around key matters or key discussions in greater society. So there's a lot of connection there. We sit here with an amazing legacy. We're very proud to be a company that has impacted the societies it's been part of for so long. 178 years is a long time. We're celebrating this year the 150th anniversary of the Carlsberg Research Laboratory, which is down the road here. The oldest industrial research lab in the world. Invented the pH scale, it still hangs on the wall.
Really?
Won the Nobel Prize a couple of years ago. An amazing research lab. Next year the foundations will turn 150 years again. The first industrial foundations in the world. And for 150 years they've been giving back to society. So a third of what we make goes back into the foundations, and they then spend it on the science, the arts and youth communities. And that means this focus on constantly building for more than just short-term profits is the same thing at Liverpool. So the partnerships, they matter. We don't pick partners randomly. We pick partners where our brand long-term gets strengthened by their brand and the other way around.
I think, the fact that the foundations, I think from listening to what you've said over the last 45 minutes, there's great foundations of success, and congratulations, and thank you so much for inviting us in and for giving us your insight into how you're driving this organisation forward. Thank you so much.
Thank you.